No, not you. Hey, you guys. We're back. And we're back with Trevor.
Hello, everybody.
Trevor. And I've known Trevor for, I'm going to say like 5 years. Is it longer?
Oh, it's way longer than 5 years.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay, 10 years.
Somewhere in there.
Somewhere in there. And I've always struggled with your last name.
Every interview we do, we'll start off with this question.
Yeah, I know. It just won't come out. And it's Ulrich. No, gosh.
Starts with a Y.
Why? Yeah. Oh.
Yelich.
Yelich.
Yeah.
I knew that.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyway, we've been here chatting. Hi, Mitch. Thanks for dropping in. We've been here chatting about breath work and awakening and healing and, in our own personal life experience with all of those things. And Trevor's, in my experience of Trevor's, he's kind of dedicated his life to carrying the message of awakening and healing and consciousness. Is that fair to say?
That's fair to say, for sure.
Yeah. And so Trevor's one of those. No, there's hardly anybody else that actually. When people are going through stuff, I send them to Trevor.
That's very kind of you.
Well, and I have,
Thank you.
And because of your caring, the way that you work with people, in my experience, is you're very present and caring, and I would say non-judgmental. So maybe that non-judgment facilitates the caring, but so that's my personal experience of the work that you do, and so
that's sweet to hear. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, and I think we're fortunate to have you in Calgary, and with the you're working with a lot of people, and then it's going out. You're training people to do the work, and it's we were just talking about a friend of ours who's running a retreat, and you can't go, and you have your people going to do the breath work, and that's really
You're referring to Paul, who puts on the whoop gatherings, and
yes. I didn't know whether he wanted us to tell everybody about his retreats yet, but
I think the retreats. I think it's important to talk about briefly in the sense that he's got connected with some other well-established folks that are interested in supporting first responders and veterans with recovery from PTSD, kind of taking another step in life. So they're not working right at the front lines with people that are in risky places with PTSD.
Mm-hmm.
They're not high risk. They're people that have already gone through a certain level of therapy and support to be relatively stable within their symptoms, and then where do they go next?
Yeah.
So Paul's stepping into with these other providers to create that next step for vets and for first responders. So I think it's a beautiful endeavor. I'm grateful to be part of that.
He and I just talked this morning for half an hour or so, and it's so cool that he's done all this work with WAP and has all the people available and he was able to just kind of put it all together in a week.
Yeah. They move fast.
Yeah, and the people who are kind of backing it financially or whatever he said they were, oh wow, you did all that in a week, but all the resources were there for him.
Right.
And just goes to show we never know how things are coming together.
Yeah.
It can often look like things are falling apart.
Yeah, falling apart, trickling along slowly, and then all of a sudden something just changes.
Yeah. Right. They're not falling apart, they're falling together.
There you go. Nice.
Anyway, so how long ago did you start with the breath work?
Breathwork in this particular fashion, I started practicing about 11 years ago, but I've been facilitating for about 9 years. So it's still, like, as far as like a lot of the other stuff that I do, it's still one of the newer things, so to speak.
You do other stuff?
some other stuff.
Like,
as far as teaching yoga and meditation for years.
I forget that you teach yoga.
Yeah, well, I don't really. I'm solely focusing on the breath work now, and a little bit on meditation still, but predominantly the breath work.
Yes.
So, yeah, it's become my baby as far as the organization of trainings and running workshops and seeing private clients. I have a private practice for it.
So, when people come to you, and I mean, I think that that sometimes people would come because they're looking for another experience.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
And then sometimes they may come because they've recognized or read or heard that breathwork can actually be a vehicle for healing.
Yes, which I would still qualify as having another experience.
Well, it is, but they may not even consider that they're going to get a healing. They're just coming for a ride.
Yeah. I mean, the breathwork can be a way to alter your state of consciousness, so you could literally journey and experience some pretty interesting phenomena. So some people are coming just for the high, so to speak.
Yeah. And the healing happens anyway.
Right. Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I mean, my first go around with breathwork was in the 90s, and with Kelly Toby and.
Yeah, and been doing it a long time.
Yeah, and those folks, and I was like, oh, Toledo, it was, and this lady who was teaching it had gone and to Australia and got trained by Groff. Is it? Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was in Australia then. I think maybe he's still alive. Is he still alive?
He's still alive, but he's in the U.S. as a home base. Yeah.
And she'd gone to Australia and got trained and came back and teamed up with Kelly, and her name was Rose. I forget Rose's last name, but it was amazing. I was like hooked.
Yeah.
And then a lot of time went in between till really you surfaced with this. For me there was I didn't know of anybody that was doing the work that you're doing and has the energy to create a big enough ball rolling to sustain yourself and to make a difference in people's lives. And yeah. So did you know it was going to be like, did the vision come? And
no, well, it's gone through stages for sure. A lot falling apart to find the legs to stand back up.
Yes.
When I first started working with breathwork, there was probably about a year-long period where I had a love-hate relationship with it, because it was really pressing me into some really challenging territory that I had been avoiding for a long time. And a lot of my other practices through yoga and martial arts, meditation, that in some ways they've been a way for me to avoid looking at some of my stuff, another way to manage or control myself. So when I was blessed with some guides, some teachers along the way that started pointing at things, such as like even just carrying anger. It's like, hey, you're carrying some anger in there. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm the nicest guy ever. It's like,
yeah, fuck
like,
off.
Totally.
What are you talking about?
and it took a lot of pointing at that directly before I actually started to even take it seriously. Like, wait, maybe I'm actually missing or not seeing something. So things like that. So I started looking for tools to start to inquire beyond what I was holding to be true. And the breathwork, and the breathwork became one of those tools. So it was that love-hate relationship of like, this is working really well, and shit, it's bringing up a lot of stuff that's like really tough to stomach right now or be with, and learning how to, walk that line. So after that transitory period of like discomfort around it, it has just done nothing but pick up the momentum of being a blessing. It's a blessing. It's been a blessing for myself, and it's been an incredible blessing to share it with other people, to see its ramifications, its affect. Yeah.
So do you think that it helps people to come into the moment, to be more present, and after, does it awaken them more to their own potential of being here now?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Do you talk about lots of times, and this is just my observation, many of us, I'll just talk about me. I've often don't we normally put that on?
Still seems to go through.
Oh, does it? Wow. Anyway,
Random phone calls.
Random phone calls, yeah. That's it. So, story, you know, that we have about ourselves.
Yeah.
And which sometimes keeps us from living in our full potential, keeps us from being all that we can be, or you know, I'm not good enough story, or not tall enough, or not, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
And good, bad, right, and wrong. So does the breath work and the work that you do with people help people to see that the story really isn't them?
Yes. Yeah. And initially just by giving them space, partly by syncing up with the present moment again, right? Partly by becoming clear on the ways that I've been holding myself away from the present moment, right? The layers of belief, cognitive structuring, like what I would almost consider the mental fabric, architecture of this experience. Right? The outlines that I've put in it that have kind of formed the sense that I'm sitting with David, right? And then any judgments that come along with that, or evaluations, right? Like it's on this like cognitive overlay that sheaths the living experience. What I sometimes refer to as a living, breathing experience. It's when we drop into that space, it's whole oceanic experience has its own flux and intimate and an edgeless relationship that's transpiring. And within that, I kind of shape my life and put lines where I think I need to put lines to essentially keep myself safe based on past experiences. It's like I remember being attacked when I was 5 years old when I acted like this, so I took on this way of being in my life to essentially...
never be attacked again.
Exactly, right? So when we have people coming into breath work, it's the opportunity to get clear on where I've drawn those lines, the beliefs that I've taken on to keep myself safe in this world, to shed light in that territory, to give myself a bit of space where I can look at that and not be so immediately reactive that I need to assert that it's true. Right? I can start to question the truth of it. And in the midst of it, I'm also catalyzing through this breathing and the enlivening of the system, the potential of falling back into a really incredible experience of just being lived by breath and by life, and surrendering control. So I fall back into that present moment. And then between those two polarities of the present moment and that attempt to assert safety through those cognitive overlays, we start to find the space to like really fall into the eternal present moment, which isn't even necessarily the felt sense of being present, right? The feeling sense. It's something beyond that.
It's beyond,
right?
Something that we use concepts to talk about.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
Or concepts of divinity, or concepts, you know, because the mind needs something
to grasp
to identify with, but that space that you're talking about, where everything seems to come out of, all creation. And so if we access that in the breath work, maybe a number of times, does our relationship with that space grow? Do we seek it in meditation after?
Well, I don't know if this will answer your question directly or not, but I would say that for some of us, we don't even know that is possible until we start to get a taste of it. So that inherently starts to foster a relationship with it, because all of a sudden we realize that what we had really tied ourselves up in previously wasn't actually as true as we thought.
Yeah, that's all bullshit.
Bullshit would be a simpler way to...
Not as true as we thought. So a repeated experience of that. And I guess
it could continue to substantiate your contact with that territory, but from my own personal experience, the mind is incredibly dexterous with re-articulating itself in a new, broader sheath of architecture that incorporates all of that and then reasserts itself as now I know the way. Right. And then we're essentially trying to navigate that new, broader context. It's a thing that
it's so good. I'm trying to explain that the mind is just it's almost like a built-in defense.
Oh, absolutely.
And it wants to you got that, and this is all part of now. You know, our idea of what the world is.
Yeah. For a number of years, I worked with plant medicines more extensively, and was also part of the destructuring and questioning beliefs. But it was amazing. This is when it really first dawned on me to this degree that like I'd go through these mind-blowing experiences, so to speak, and access spirit in this moment in ways that were just like indescribable and beyond words, and knowing myself beyond who I thought I was, and like restructuring like sense of self, and even partial falling aways of sense of self, right?
No self.
And in the midst of that, watching like layers, it's this cobweb of architecture come back around the moment and reassert itself. It was absolutely phenomenal what we're capable of that way. So it's like, yes, through this process we can begin to open up to that possibility of being alive in this moment without those defensive mechanisms and that structure of mind, but it reasserts itself so rapidly that it's...
So, my idea, my conditioning around that space, or God, if you will, had always been and maintained this idea for such a long time that space was separate from me. And
that's the critical turning point, right? That's the difference between healing and waking up.
Yes, and just not that long ago, I recognized that it's not separate from me. It is me. It is, and it's like, holy shit. And then the stories around me are, they're silly, for not wanting to judge, just recognizing now when I listen to the Dalai Lama talk about compassion, I now get that I believe that the compassion he's talking about is that we're all stuck in the story, and so it's not about whether somebody had a misfortunate event. Whatever the events are, don't seem to matter. We're not really here anyway, if we're in the story.
Right.
And so it's been an amazing shift for me recently to recognize that. Then I got back into it often, but it's like, oh, fuck. And do you know? Breathwork can bring us into that space. I think that meditation can. I think meditation's kind of the long way.
Slower.
Yes.
Yeah, but potentially, because of that slowness, potentially a little bit more stable way to enter it. Not that there can't be stability within the breathwork experience, but it can come more rapidly, but it could leave more rapidly as well. Right?
And prayer. I discovered there's in my 12-step recovery program, there's a simple prayer, like a one-liner. And it's full of little prayers, but there's a one-liner around fear. And it talks about fear, and it says that fear sets in motion trains of circumstance, which later gave us results we thought we didn't deserve. So fear paints the future. And I had spent most of my adult life, probably my child life, negotiating with fear. And as if I, making deals with, that's not true, that's never going to happen, And in the book it says the prayer is we ask God to remove our fear, and at once we begin to outgrow fear. So, but the concept, I understand now that that's a concept, and it took me a long time to get to that anyway. And so what happens though when fear comes up, and sometimes it can come up in the middle of the night for, like, where the hell did that come from?
Yeah, for lots of people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so when it happens, I do that. It's like a hack, right? I just say, God, please remove my fear. And boom. And I recognize, I thought, what the hell just happened? There's nothing, nobody swooped in and took the fear away. I'm running on here, but the humility kind of took me out of ego a bit.
Right.
The humility of asking in the moment to have that taken away.
Yeah.
Seemed to be the carpet I ride in, part of the prayer that makes it. And then I'm like,
the courage to ask for help.
Yes,
Yeah.
and it's gone.
Yeah.
It's like, wow. And so it's
I would say that the basis of fear is a sense of separation, right? And essentially the dilemma that we run into with this cognitive overlay in our set of beliefs is that I'm essentially trying to play God. I'm trying to assert that role for myself. Right? I'm dictating to this moment what I think this moment should be.
know. I have no struggle with that.
Right?
Yes.
So if I'm asserting to this moment, asserting in this moment that I know better as far as what this moment should be or how it should go, that I'm fundamentally trying to play God. And as soon as I'm trying to assert that role myself, I'm going to fundamentally suffer because I'm constantly in conflict with what's actually what actually is with reality.
So instead of life on life's terms, I'm trying to run the show.
Yeah.
And when I'm running the show, it's usually much, I keep it quite tight.
Yeah, totally. So breath work itself becomes one of those tools, and there are other tools out there, but it becomes one of those beautiful tools where it's like, I may get to taste what it is to have life running me.
To surrender.
To truly surrender.
Yeah.
In a way that I could never actually do, quote unquote, other than putting myself in a place, in a practice that might provoke such a thing.
Like enlightenment intensive, asking the koans.
Yeah, that type of work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or, a stronger, more austere meditative practice could definitely do it for you too.
Yes.
A few minutes every day won't necessarily
8 hours a day.
For a while, potentially.
Yeah. We had a fellow in here the other day who spoke, and he had was physically, his body was in such pain, like years of unbelievable pain, and he healed himself with meditation, 8-hour days.
Wow.
He really did, and what a story, and what a human being he's become. And then he built a pyramid, and he brought the pyramid in, and I sat in it.
Yeah.
It was right here, and I don't know what's happening in the pyramid, but something was, and
if anything, you were.
Yeah. There we were. Again. Yeah. No. So fun, eh? Mm-hmm. We talked earlier about healing, and the potential for breath work to bring about a healing or a release or a letting go, and that sometimes the breath work can be as effective as the plant medicine in the healing process.
Absolutely.
So people are coming to you for counseling, and then,
so to speak.
Yes, and where they're coming, they're sharing what their story is, what the symptoms of their story.
Yeah. And even that sharing is relatively light at times because we drop more into the way it's presenting itself in the moment through breath and body, and learning how to dance with that, as opposed to getting too caught up in the narrative around it, the storyline around it.
Yes, of course.
That plays a role in it to a degree, but it's much more about the existing relationship with body and breath.
But have you seen some success around, say, dealing with addictions or
so
mental illness?
There's been a fairly wide variety of clientele, the different things that they're dealing with that have come towards me. I haven't specialized in one particular territory. I don't strictly work with addictions. I don't strictly work with sexual trauma or anything. Like some people tend to cordon themselves off with a particular type of clientele. So I've got a broad scattering. But I have seen quite a bit of success with people leaving, maybe not after the first session, but after a number of sessions, with a different way of relating with others, and different sense of relationship with a spouse or with family members, different sense of relationship with themselves or with food or whatever their addiction might have been. There's been positive shifts, and positive shifts all the way down, and these are a little bit harder to predict, but at times I work into the paradigm that our physical pains have intimate tie-ins to our mental and emotional structures. And when those mental and emotional structures are reorganized, and some of those existing beliefs fall away, some of our pain does too. And to watch people that have had chronic back pain for 20 years walk out of a session, and maybe it wasn't the first one, but walk out of a session pain-free for the first time in 20 years is phenomenal. Did we specifically process back pain during that time? No, it was more of the underlying stresses that were prompting that in the biological system.
Well, and the system knows where the healing's needed.
Correct.
And there's a body knowledge or body awareness. It goes beyond our conscious or our conscious thought.
Yeah.
You know, and so does the consciousness then know where the healing's needed in our persona, you know, in our psyche?
We definitely work under that pretense. I work under that pretense.
Yes.
Yeah, that it knows better than I do.
Yeah.
And I'm really, with the person, I'm working to get out of the way. Which might sound like a strange thing if they're coming to me for support, but I'm like actively working with them to get out of the way.
That the consciousness knows, like what the body needs for healing and what the psyche needs for healing.
Yeah.
And they're all connected, of course. And then you would want to get out of the way. You just want to hold space.
Want to hold space, and again through the breath and through strategic facilitation, working to elicit not only a spontaneous response in their system, where all of a sudden their life force, their body and their breath is like doing the job, and they're just witnessing, bearing witness, but to the point where at that moment I step into that space as well, spontaneously, and I'm bearing witness in the same way. And even if I'm still working with them, that's becoming more and more spontaneous and being done as opposed to controlling in any kind of way. Yeah.
So I again, I'm making this up, but I think the ingredient you bring is your compassion, your love into those moments. You know, you're there without judgment. You're there as a witness, and I think people feel that with you. You're like,
and I would have to say, this is a little bit tangential for a moment, but I feel like it's pertinent, is that I was contemplating compassion at one point in time, because I hit a point in my journey where I'm like, all these spiritual teachings are still, they can be used as practices, as if I need to be practicing this regularly to eventually perfect it. And I was like, there's something rotten in Denmark, so to speak. Like that doesn't add up to me. So I can practice for the rest of my life and never be fully compassionate. It's like, what's actually transpiring there? All right. First off, I think that what's transpiring there is that when we speak of equanimity or compassion or love, that these are eternal aspects, so to speak, eternalities. I'm just going to leave it at that. I don't even want to call them experiences, but I can squeeze that into like a way of being, as if I need to be that way to get it right. Right? And compassion falls into that. I think if the Buddha was eternally compassionate, as some of the teachings would have us believe, I think it was because he was eternally heartbroken. He saw suffering so clearly within his own sense of self and sense of separation, and that with all of life, that it was like just completely and utterly heartbreaking. And by the time that was done, there was nothing left of him to like egoically fight with what was going on in anybody else. He was just a pure place of what we might call compassion, but it's not like he was practicing compassion to get to that point. He actually fell apart completely. Right. In my point of view, it's like when he sat underneath that tree, vowing to never get back up until he was awake. I think he sat underneath that tree because he was completely broken and done, right? And fully surrendered because there was nothing left to pick up. Right.
So he became completely aware of the separation.
Yeah.
And through awareness of separation, found the connection.
Yeah. So I would say, in conjunction with this, if you're perceiving me as compassionate with others, and if other people are finding me compassionate, it's because I've fallen apart a lot.
Isn't it great? We get what we ask for.
Totally. It's not because I cultivated some big skill or some generous, kind person because as a virtue. It's like I've just fallen apart a lot. Yeah. Many times.
Awesome.
So.
Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
So. I smile because I can relate.
Yeah, I can feel that well up around my eyes because it's like when I'm sitting with people and I'm working with them, it's like I know how much this hurts, and they don't have to convince me about any of that. Like, I know how much it hurts.
And here we are hanging on.
Yeah,
it hurts, and we don't want to, and not wanting to let go.
Yeah.
It's like like the monkey with his hand in the milk bottle.
Totally.
Yeah.
Fist around the banana trying to get it out.
Yeah. Awesome. Let's talk about relationship for a minute.
Sure. Small topic. Can you sum it up?
No, but it's such an opportunity for growth, in my opinion. Because our conditioning's so strong around expectations and you know, that I think my own personal story is that most of my life I wanted something, and I didn't realize that I wanted something. And most of my life, in relationship, I was trying to make deals. I would, you know, that I was going to give a lot so that I could get in relationship with, you know, I'm talking about primary relationships with my love relationships with women.
Yeah.
And you know, it feels now, for me anyway, that I don't know exactly how to do that anymore, because I don't feel like I need anything. So I sometimes say, oh, that may not happen again. Do you know what I mean? And it may, because there doesn't seem to be a need.
Yeah.
And though sometimes I think, oh, that would be nice, but it's not like most of my adult life,
right?
Which might have only been never. Most of my traditional adult life, from when they thought I was an adult, you know, and here in relating, I was always wanting something, and not knowing how to do that for, you know, give that to me, or not, you know, not realizing that I was negotiating and or overselling or whatever.
Right.
So how do you find that?
Well, to tie it into what you were just sharing, I think that the more that this transpires, the more we end up in this place where it doesn't matter like it did before. You're not seeking to achieve certain things or gain certain things, even unconsciously, in the way that you were previously. It predisposes us or leaves us more open to actually just making it a conscious choice to enter into a relationship and to reside within one. We're less motivated by the pulls and the angsts and the needs. Yeah. So for me, that would naturally conclude that we have more freedom in the relationships, although I don't think, at least from my own personal experience, it definitely doesn't preclude me from running into challenges with relationships. I say this as I look across to my partner sitting behind the camera.
Yeah, Jody's here. That's why I brought it up. That's why I brought it up.
Well, yeah, I know. It's like interesting topic, David. No, and that's the thing. Like, in no way would I say that waking up precludes you from having challenges with human dynamics, because there's still like residual personality structures. There's still preferences. There's still ways of perceiving this world that we're more inclined to. Like, you are still sitting here in front of me with certain layers of personality that I would call or refer to as David, that constellate around the idea of David, right? So, and there will be preferences, and you, depending on your relationship that you're in, I'm guessing you'll run into challenges.
I'm sure, yes. Yeah. Yes.
Just by the nature of those personalities coming into contact. But the capacity for you to actually bear witness, right, and rest in what and who you actually are, stands clear of that. That doesn't have anything to do with relational dynamics. It doesn't have anything to do with residual personality structure. And forgive my language, gets a little bit challenging maybe around this. It's not so bare bones and simple, but
yes. The two areas that I feel, and there may be more, that I, you know, there is also just a little bit of apprehension about, you know, what would it be like again, you know, and I've kind of written out I have a little thing, and that, you know, I'd like to have, you know, I've written out a checklist. You know, but, well, if I'm going to be in a relating again, you know, I'd like to be with somebody who doesn't need me, you know, who is, you know, able to make a conscious choice on a daily basis to be there or not be there, so you know, that would be like seems more mature than what I've ever done before. I often sought out people that I felt needed me,
right,
and So what I was going to say is that it's an area that I don't think I'm entirely clear on. And the other area that I don't think that I'm entirely clear on, and I don't know if you ever talk about it much, would be money.
Yeah, well, money seems to be one of my nemesis for sure. My
Or
relationship with it.
opportunities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, an opportunity at times, but more recently, and I know you've talked about this before in conjunction with some of your businesses, but in building up the breathwork trainings, like there's been a significant amount of financial strain in deciding to go that route and to really make a go of it, as opposed to choosing some kind of contemporary or conventional way of making money. And yeah, and it's taken its toll. It's like there's a low-grade nervous system response of like danger when there aren't enough funds around.
Yeah.
You know, it's like literally in my system there's just this charge of like, you know, where you're going to find the next dollar that's going to make sure that
the rent's paid.
you can participate in this family and you know, like pay some rent and put some food on a table. It's like, so, and again, I think the thing I want to isolate there is when we're talking about waking up versus healing, the territory of healing for me is very much like any residual beliefs around money, right? Dealing with some of those old wounds around relationships, right? Intimate relationships, family relationships, and seeking to question the beliefs and liberate some of the old emotional energy to the point where we're more functional in those relationships. But like you mentioned earlier, that's still just a change in experience.
Yes.
And ultimately waking up, since that was also part of the conversation that we entered into here, waking up is what's beyond experience.
Yes.
What's beyond experience. So it's like my relationship dynamics and my money dynamics and everything. It's a very relational human phenomenon. It's based on my belief systems. Waking up has nothing to do with any of it. It's like I could be comfortable all I want with money and comfortable with relationships. That doesn't necessarily get me any closer to waking up than if I'm struggling with them.
No,
Right.
I get it. I mean, they're really two ones in the story, and I suspect that we can, you know, rewrite the story.
Yeah.
And
make it really pretty.
Yeah, because I have.
Yeah.
You know, and in different ways at different times, and sometimes falling back into the old story, and so one's in the story and one's not. One's in the place that really can't even be described. You know, I was looking at how many different concepts we've given to that space. You know, and it's interesting because if we've actually called that space that, you know, we've referred to it like God or infinite intelligence, or you know, in our 12-step program, we refer to it as father, employer, director. You know, those are authority figures, and so, but there's many, isn't there? You know, and all the religions have a different name for that space, and even have put faces on it, and so it's quite something how much energy we put into describing the thing that can't seem to be described.
Yeah. And I would say that my personal take on it is that most of that has transpired because we're attempting to understand the ineffable, right, or the indescribable from a relative point of view, from a personalized point of view. So it's the millions of ways, or the 10,000 ways, as the Chinese might say, of attempting to describe it are all attempts of ego, of my sense of self or my sense of separation, I should say, and that sense of self based around separation to try and describe that which is beyond it. So it's an attempt that's bound to fail.
Isn't it? I just got that. Of course, the concepts keep us from attaining. They're blocking themselves.
Yeah.
Ta-da. Love it. You've got some events coming up.
Yeah, that predominantly are on the healing side of things. For folks that are desiring to, again, shed some light on where they might be holding on to things, different beliefs, old emotions that haven't been fully processed or digested, even potentially trauma that hasn't been fully processed or digested. And to shed some light on that, to potentially renegotiate some of it and resolve some of it. And also, as we mentioned earlier, to potentially fall into those moments of surrender where we get to be with life as it is right now and experience being lived as opposed to us doing the living. Right? So we've got on Saturday, April 27th in the evening at Yoga Santosha, there will be a breathwork and sound journey, sound provided by a dear friend, Marcus Fung, who's carries amazing medicine through voice and drum and rattle, and is a very quote-unquote shamanic in flavor. Has spent a lot of time with different nations and indigenous teachings.
What's his name again?
Marcus Fung.
Okay.
He's from Edmonton.
Nice.
So he'll be providing sound for the space while myself and a couple other breathwork facilitators are supporting people in navigating that space with 28th? Breath. 27th.
27th, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Sunday or Saturday evening at Yoga Santosha for 3 hours, 6:30 to 9:30 p.m. And then for people that are curious about the sound side of things, Marcus is actually going to be here for 4 days, April 26th through 29th. So Friday through Monday. And we'll be doing a 4-day sound therapy training, learning how to use voice and drum and rattle and bowls and other sound instruments to liberate energy in the system and to help people drop into the present moment while they're freeing up any blockages within the flow of energy in the body and the mind. So
It's interesting that sound can bring us into the moment. You know,
very much,
music can bring us, in the moment. We had a lady here the other day and who started playing the violin when she was 3. So she's part of the Philharmonic. Now she's become a director, a conductor.
Yeah.
And
nice.
So she's had this amazing awakening experience. She's really wow. But we talked about music and how music can lift us up, out of the messiness, and into a very high vibration.
Yeah.
And
exalted states.
Yes. Yeah. So is that some of that?
Some of that will be transpiring, but the 4 days is really tailored towards not only providing people an experience of that, but also teaching them how to do that for others. So there's some teaching of how to facilitate that work to provide it. So it'll be a fun 4 days for sure. And if anybody's interested in that, they can contact me directly through some links that we'll provide later on. And information is provided through the Numa Somatics website. So, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds like especially if there's so many people that are kind of in the healing arts, doing maybe a little Reiki or a little massage or a little yoga, and this would be a real nice piece if they're interested in the sound to add on to what they have as a in their toolkit.
Yeah. Thanks for picking up on what I didn't say. Obviously, it's a great supplement or complement to a lot of other practices out there. Absolutely.
And I have a lady who's been here helping me with some meditation stuff. Actually, we went to a treatment center yesterday to instruct some of the facilitators who work at the treatment center around teaching the clients meditation, and which was a real honor to be asked to go do that. And I brought her with me, and she did we kind of entertained them for an hour, and we did some meditating as well, and talked about God, and talked about hacks to bring us into the moment.
Yeah.
And she has a lot of she has the meditation, the Reiki, and a few things that she does, and I think she'd be perfect for this, because she's really interested in giving back, and it's sometimes many of us we've just discovered that service is also the road to the moment. It's also another way to be more present, and a lot of folks that I run into are looking for ways to give back, and having this what you're talking about, the sound experience, and as part of the package would be good. So I think that's a great gift to the community.
Yeah.
Is it?
Thank you.
This is the first time you've done it?
This will be the first run of it. Yeah, first offering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
You guys, I think it's a great idea. And just saying that I know it won't happen, but I think it would be great if I could go. But you know what I'd love to do with you?
What is that?
Paul earlier, and how do you say Paul's last name? Pozanowski?
Pozanowski, I think. Pozanowski. Something like that.
Paul said that he did a 4-day breath work with you.
2.5.
Oh, was it 2.5?
Yeah, Friday night, Saturday, Sunday, all day Saturday and Sunday.
I think it seemed like 4 days for him.
It might have, but yeah. He had a, from what I could tell, he had a really good experience with that.
Yeah,
so.
and so that would be quite a few sessions, wouldn't it?
We do 3 sessions. Well, technically we do 4 sessions, but 2 of them are, 3 of them are for yourself, for the participant, and then there's a 4th one where they're actually sitting with one of the other participants, holding space and learning what it is to hold therapeutic space and loving, compassionate space for somebody else while they're journeying. So kind of an introduction towards facilitating the work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds like that would be.
I think you'd enjoy it a lot.
Yeah.
It's
like,
a,
you know, it would be nice to go and not take my phone.
Yeah, what a novel idea. Or your filming crew.
And just, you know, let go.
Yeah.
Have you ever done the Enlightenment Intensive?
A few times.
Have you?
Yeah.
Do you know our friend Trevor Thibodeau?
Yeah, I'm friends with him.
Are you?
Good man.
He is, yeah. Trevor came in, we did an interview with Trevor, and he and I actually lived together a couple of years ago, and we were, anyways, before he got back together with his lovely lady, but he's doing his Enlightenment Intensive coming up in June, and I think those are a big deal.
Yeah, it's a very powerful experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was listening to a video the other day where what's his name? Oh, it's gone right in my mind. Anyway, he did a 10-day Enlightenment Intensive in India, and I guess it was. I don't. Actually, Enlightenment Intensive scares me. I've done some of the work. I haven't done like days and days of it.
Oh, you haven't done a full intensive?
I haven't done a full intensive. It's like, so I think I have to.
Yeah.
Because it does kind of. What I've done has just, you know, my body, the reaction in my physical body when I've done it, you know, like some hours of it, has been like, holy. So it's quite powerful, isn't it?
Yeah. No, it's beautiful work. Yeah.
Well,
someday down the road, I envision a collaborative offering that actually incorporates Enlightenment Intensive work with breath work. So I think that they would marry together exceptionally well.
Could be 2 Trevors.
Yeah. Trevor squared.
Trevor squared. Could be. We could have the drumming Trevor come in too.
Yeah, I was going to say. You could cube it. No. My partner's saying no, it's going too far with the joke.
You know, thanks so much.
You're very welcome.
For coming in, and you've been, have you been doing some work in Toronto?
Yeah. We're offering the breathwork in Vancouver, Winnipeg, Toronto, Edmonton here.
Wow.
There will be one starting up in the summer and fall in Saskatoon. And we're spreading it around.
Nice. Well, I think that's really, really cool. You know, you have a vision that's quite a big vision, and Canada-wide.
It's keeping me busy. Yeah, for sure.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, I know I've been trying to get you to come in for a while again, so I'm glad that you made time today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and it's always lovely to see you and to be with your community. So
yes, well, it's your community. It's our community. Yes, okay. It really is.
Thanks for sharing.
Thanks. I love you guys. We're gonna go, and what can I tell you? Oh, well, I'm going to put links for the Numa breathwork and places that Trevor's going to be appearing and over the next little while. And I encourage you to do the breathwork. Just go, especially at Santosha coming up. It's a great, like a 3-hour evening to really get your first taste of this work. And it's amazing. It'll, you know, if you have any questions, I know I was going to ask, if you have any questions, just let us know. Make a comment, and Trevor will get back to you. And you know, if you have any thoughts about breath work, or just anything. And if Trevor didn't say this, but I'll say that if ever you're in a situation, I believe, oh gosh, I'm going way out on a limb here, but way out. But if you're in a situation where you want to go to one of these things and money seems to be the problem, talk to Trevor, and I'm sure he can work something out.
When people are in need but really wanting the work, I'm flexible.
Yeah. And so just there's an opportunity here for some great healing, and for us to be responsible for our own healing in a way. And
absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, we love you. I do, and I'm sure Trevor does.
I love you too.
Jody does, for sure. and James does too. Follow us on YouTube, you guys, and all that stuff. Okay, love you lots. Bye.
See you.